Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
While we're waiting, I just sent a quick email to Christopher. I was reviewing the minutes and I realized as I finished looking at them that what came out on my printout is page 4 is actually from the January minutes. Does anyone have a copy of the minutes in front of them from February?
I don't, but I can look.
All right, Samara, if you scroll down to
Well, let me.
Citizens Speak.
Well, I haven't located it yet, and I'm sorry. I just need to
Okay.
see if there's anyone. No.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Hi, Margaret.
Yeah, there's an extra page. There's an extra page that seems to be left over.
Right. So after you get to Roman numeral 6, Citizens Speak, then the way it printed out on mine, it came out as page 4, and it's actually starting with 7. It's
Right.
actually the page from the January minutes.
Right.
And I only picked up on that because I had to leave the meeting early at 6:22. And I said, oh, let me look and see when the meeting ended. And then I couldn't find it. And that's when I realized that that page is missing. So we don't want to improve the minutes as is until he can give us the February page rather than the January page. So you understand what I'm saying, Ruby, then you can see it. Yeah, okay.
Was the previous page the final page, though, where the mentioned citizen speak?
That was the way it printed out for me, the way it laid out for PDF, that was the 3rd page. And then there was quite a blank, and then it printed out a 4th page, but the 4th page it printed out was the last page of the January minutes.
Right, I understand that, but I felt the previous page was in fact the last page of the February minutes.
Right.
Well, perhaps it is, but the point is the way it comes out in my printout, it's not like the next page after that is all of the January minutes. The next page is the last page of the January minutes.
Right, but if you just exclude that, we've got all of the February minutes, I think, right?
No, we don't.
We don't?
Because it ends at Citizens Speak, and then it should say Board Speak, and then it should say adjournment, and should say when the meeting adjourned.
Oh, okay. But since it looks as if it might not have been included since there was a lot less left of that page space.
Well, we'll find out.
I see what you're saying.
Oh, Chris is on now, so we can ask him.
Hello, you had a question?
Yeah, Chris, I've printed out from what, from the attachment that was sent to me, I printed out the minutes as they were laid out. And the way they printed out, it came out actually as 4 pages, but the 3rd page is just section end of section 5 into section 6, ending at citizen speak. And then there's a long blank, and then the fourth page actually, attached to these minutes actually is the last page of the January minutes. So the February minutes that you sent us appear to end at numeral 6 at citizen speak, and then there's no adjournment or adjournment time or list of members present. So it's the actual page that is the end, what looks like the end of the February minutes. Items 7 and 8 is actually the January minutes.
Must have been a problem with my PDF.
And I don't even know how to do a PDF. So I say kudos for you for even trying, because I'm lucky I can even print it out.
Yeah, sometimes it does that when I combine them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I needed to request from Samara the library report. I combed through all of my emails and I couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. So either it got lost in my internets, or
No problem. This is the February report, but I'm just
no,
thinking
it would be the January report for the February minutes.
Right, yes. I will send that to you right now, Chris.
We should officially convene here since we have a quorum. So let's just start here. We'll come back to this in a second. So I guess roll call. So Chris, you want to handle that?
Patrick,
Yes, here.
Carol,
Present.
Lauren, Ruby,
Here,
Margaret.
Here.
I was muted, sorry, here.
Oh, great. All right, all present.
Okay. All right. So now we're at this. We're back to where we started here with the minutes. So right now, why don't we just keep going since we don't have it complete in front of us anyway? And if we have to, we'll table it till the next meeting. I think Fred, Ed is not here. Samara, did he give you a report at all?
He did not. He told me that he wasn't able to come.
Yeah.
but he didn't give me a report.
Yeah, there's a big meeting tonight. Let's move on to the director's library report.
Okey-doke. Okay. On the statistics front, our February statistics were Libby Overdrive checkouts were 1,795. Mason circulation, all items, all libraries, all checked out from Mason, 7,270. Ramsdell, same scenario, 959 items. Mason in-person visitors, the number we have here is 4,051. This number does not include the front door for the first 2 weeks. But now we have a front door counter as of the 14th of February, so the March number should be complete if our front door counter cooperates throughout the month. Ramsdell in-person visitors, 334. The current FY23 budget is on the following page. The non-expendable, non-appropriated, excuse me, accounts are there for the beginning of the fiscal year and at midpoint fiscal year. At quarter point, I will get another update from the finance department and then update that second column accordingly. And our operating budget, the FY23 operating budget, is right next to it. I don't, probably doesn't help anyone if I just read the numbers out loud. So I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about anything. I will, I saw, Pat, that on your agenda is the FY24 update. So perhaps I'll pause on that in this library report and report on it on the agenda's schedule. Updates. I'm very happy to say that on Monday, the 27th, Christine Warner and I presented the Fine Free initiative to the select board. We happened to be there we happened to be scheduled on the date of the first of two airport discussions. So it was a very large crowd. Not for us, but a very large crowd engaged in the conversation, and it was really a immediate and unanimous adoption of the Fine Free initiative. So that was very exciting. Our next step is right now, staff members are reviewing a revised borrowing policy that reflects the Fine Free changes. And then at the next trustee meeting, I will bring that to the trustees for review and hopefully adoption. And then we will we'll also, our steps before rolling out will also be to update our status with CW Mars, the library consortium that we're a part of, to have a meeting with the staff to talk about how we're going to do this at the circulation desk, and then to really get the word out to the community. There was already a nice article in the Edge about it. The Eagle came and took Christine and my photos, but we haven't appeared yet. I don't know. And the hope is that this will all go live on May 1st. That's the date we're working towards. Another exciting piece of news is that the community room looks amazing. DPW just like swooped in there and painted the ceiling and the walls. They ripped out the carpet and put in laminate flooring. There's just really some, it's not complete yet, but there's really just details left to go. So so that's looking very spiffy in there. So that's exciting. And those are the updates. There's additional on the report as well, having to do with Ticket Keeper and Canopy, but I know that that's also on the agenda for the meeting, so we can talk about it then, I guess, when it arrives there.
Yeah, so Samara, on the 24 budget, which you and I both spoke at, there's something on that Eileen put out today that the select board and the finance committee is going to ask for another 200,000 taken out of the entire budget for the town. Has anybody mentioned that, if that's going to affect us at all?
I mean, I was not that I know of, not that anyone has said to me. Our operating costs, personnel aside, are static from last year. They're exactly the same because we were focused on the personnel increase. So my sincere hope would be that we would not go down, that's and also I've been to 2 budget meetings now with the finance committee, and you know, they've asked questions and we've talked about the budget, and there was never any indication to me or feeling from me that they were interested in making some cuts there. But
Okay,
I don't know.
historically, when they've done it, it's been across the board, you know, so they've kind of hatcheted everybody's figures. So that's what I was concerned about. So we'll just see, but if you hear anything, just let us know, because the one time it just meant going to town meeting and everybody had to go and speak up to not cut our budget. So
Okay.
it's kind of, this has happened before, so it's liable. I mean, they just, select board and finance committee has agreed. They're asking Mark to find up to 200,000 to take out of the, you know, the town's but what they've budgeted so far. So just a heads up on that.
Just so you know, in terms of dates, there was just another finance committee budget meeting scheduled, I believe, for the 14th, but the public hearing of the budget is on the 22nd of March.
Great. So everybody keep your eye on that. Probably it'll be Eileen that puts something out, but it could be that we're going to be under pressure again if everybody is. So, and it's the best thing to do for us at that time is really be an advocate for our budget. Okay, thanks on that. So the recommendation votes, basically, it turns out most of our voting is not mandates. It's, you know, everything gets recommended beyond our purview. The biggest thing, obviously, is the Ramsdale letter of intent for the state grant. That's got to be signed by Mark, and it has to be in by 4 o'clock on the 28th of April. This is not, doesn't bind the town to anything. This is just, they're basically, their intent is to apply when the real application goes in literally a year from now. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I think it's been recommended to me that we just have to give our blessing in the form of just a recommendation vote so that it can move forward, and it would go to the other committees in town, to the historic and a few things, just for the same thing, just so that Mark says, well, these committees are voting to move this ahead. I mean, again, for Ramsdale, this is going to be an inflection point because of the age of the building and the needs that it has. We're just lucky this money is there from the state. The state is, the budget's flush this year, so they have appropriated really a ton of money to the libraries. The last time this grant program was done was 7 years ago. So if it takes another 7 for this to show back up, I mean, Ramsdale, I don't know, you know, how that's going to hold up. The electrical system, everything else is just about on its last legs. So anyway, I'm looking for a motion for us.
Can I just
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
pipe up a little bit? So Talia and I have met with both the town manager and the assistant town manager twice to discuss this because it's really a town. The town is responsible for submitting the grant. And we've also discussed some really immediate priority issues that are at play at Ramsdale, and they are, they're significant, having to do with the electrical system, having to do with the roof and gutters, and further. And we feel that in order to make Ramsdale, the safe and comfortable environment, which really needs to happen sooner on some of these issues than later, that we need to focus on those. And this multi-year grant process really would not put that on the same kind of timeline. It would extend some of these pressing issues out. We've also, we've read the grant packet very closely, and I've attended a webinar on it. And it, so that it is an extremely involved process. It requires a tremendous amount of time. It requires a tremendous amount of buy-in from the community, and it also requires a tremendous amount of money. The way it works, the time frame is that for a year, all of this kind of preparatory work is done to submit the grant in May 2024. And then after it's submitted, then it goes to town vote, and the town must vote in favor of this. So, working on it for a year, submit it, and then it goes to town vote. And then financially, it's not free money. It covers 60% up to 5 million. So that remains a sizable amount of money that would need to be raised, and really requires a kind of pretty extensive fundraising campaign done by people who know how to raise a ton of money in that way. So given these givens, we and the town really feel that it would be best to address the issues that the Bolin report concluded with as next steps in preparing for a grant of this nature. And those are, number one, to assess and determine the strategic direction of Ramsdale Library and its services, which feel hasn't really been done, and it kind of in order to be taken seriously for a grant of this nature, I think we really need to wrap our heads around what that strategic direction is. Number 2 is to meet with library directors and board leaders from the region who have embarked on successful building projects, not primarily funded by taxpayers. 3 is to develop a financial and funding strategy. 4 is to develop a fundraising strategy and establish supporting resources. 5 is to define the project phasing, and then 6 is to apply for the grant. So what we think might be a better course of action for Ramsdale, given these immediate issues that need addressing sooner than such a grant would allow, is to begin addressing the electric, the roof, things like that with the town and through CPA funding, and begin now in really preparing to submit a really thought out and strategic grant application for the next round, which at the webinar, they couldn't promise a date, but they think will be in 4 years.
Okay, so let me say some stuff. First of all, Samara, as you recall, we did most of the work, preparation work for this. When in the Kim Boland, that report, it talks about every aspect that you mentioned. The fundraising, we need a foundation. I mean, it's all in that report. And I've been working on this stuff, frankly, for years now. I've gone to every foundation there is. I know how to do it. I know the company we would have to go to have it done. Some things you mentioned, the roof, anything that's deferred maintenance, that the grant we're talking about right now will not cover. So you have to get the roof done anyway. They won't pay for any deferred maintenance. I was at the last webinar, one of these questions, I actually asked the question because they said they wouldn't pay for deferred maintenance. And I said, well, what is that? And the first thing they said, well, if you have roof problems, you're not taking care of the building. That's different than trying to improve the whole situation. So I think the thing is that's taken care of. With the electrical, once you're gonna have to dig into the whole walls of that place, shut it down. And once you reach a certain point in for ADA, you trigger that everything else has to be done.
Actually, I just learned today that that is not the case. Chris Rimble told me that you can make an ADA compliant entrance, and not everything then has to be ADA compliant. So when you do one thing, you don't have to then do everything.
Yeah, but it's a dollar figure. Once it hits a certain dollar figure, you have to then, they don't want to piecemeal after that. You're right. The entrance can be done, and that's fine. But as you get into the building, you start working on the building itself, it's not the case. We had from the Architectural Access Board, Jeffrey Dugan is his name, he's still there. We've had extensive talks with him out throughout the years on this stuff. And it's really clear that that's the case. So once you hit a certain money figure that you spent on the building, then you want everything done, whether it be the bathrooms, everything you can imagine. The purpose of this grant is they want you to project 30 years out what the usage is of the library. So it's a pretty extensive thing. But the library commissioners have seen the reports we've done. There was 2 reports done by the Boland thing. In fact, they said, yeah, right now, much of the material is good. What it would need is a pandemic update of what now is considered important in these construction grants. So the roof is a non-starter, has to be done. We have to pay for that, no question. So that's not part of it. So Chris's information seems to be different than mine, but I can tell you I've been to every meeting now since like 2016 on these things. And so I tell you, it's like Larry Bird, the basketball player, said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So all the town has to do is say, we might do this thing, sign it for April 28th, and see what happens. I mean, a year is a long time. We may not have any money. We may be all backed up with some other things. The other thing is, if you wait another 4 years and apply, by then the school situation will be front burner. And if you think that people are going to, agree at that point to fix Ramsdale and pay for another school, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. But I know that if we can apply and get the money that they're talking about, and this worked up in Monterey too, the rest of the money, there will be people that will invest in our community here. We are willing to invest in ourselves. So 28th of April is looming. And I'll tell you, it's going to be, who knows if Ramsdale can last another 7 years without other things going wrong. The library in Somerville, near Boston, was built 2 years later by the same architects. And that building it was like, they almost had to rip it down to fix it at that point, because it just all started giving out. So anyway, I think that's it. Again, we don't sign the thing on 28th, it's dead. And then maybe there won't be money 4 years from now. Maybe the state will be broke by then. Maybe the town will be broke by then. So there's no time like the present. So anyway, it's up
Margaret,
to,
maybe you have to just start talking.
oh, she's got her hand up.
Yes. for a
Yeah.
while.
Margaret, please, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I think if Samara is conveying a pretty clear message from the town and from Mark, I think that pretty much says it. The town's not going to support this. And the request has to come from the town. But secondly, in my own experience, and of course, it's been some years, but I also, once I was working at Library Journal rather than being a library director, there was a lot about small libraries. I think they had an award for the best small library in America and that kind of thing. I just can't see Ramsdale being in a condition to receive this grant. I agree with Samara that there's a great deal that has to be done first. They're just not going to give money to this library with its current statistics and so forth. And I apologize for disagreeing with you, but
Okay, that's why we're here. I
don't think it's-
You've seen, we had a really good fire chief. All of a sudden, you've seen the paper, he's left. Does that mean Mark is even going to be here next year? Who knows? We have to just decide what's best for the community. And the other thing is that the report that was done for us, they said, we don't have two libraries duplicating the services. It's Ramsdale should be a different place, more of a community place for the community to come in, whether it be for meetings and forums and everything else, completely different than Mason. And then the fact is, then what would you do with this building if it's not going to be this? So the thing is, again, beautiful building, and you've seen what happened in this town when they let buildings go. You can see what happens. So to me, it'd be ridiculous. It costs nothing to take a pen and say we're not committing to this, but we're gonna pursue it. And then I think some of the stuff that we're talking about, there's a disagreement here. I mean, either Chris is right or I'm right on this thing. But I was on the Disability Commission, and I know Jeffrey Dugan at the Architectural Access thing, and we went over this stuff a couple times. So it's the state's regulations. Once you hit a certain dollar figure of renovation on something, and they don't count the roof, by the way, as part of that's just part of maintenance. So that's what we got there. So again, I suggest we at least move forward with something as non-committal as just a letter of we're intending to do it. And that's what I can tell you on that. So is there a motion on the floor?
Hand up.
Sorry. Yeah.
Pat, I just want to say, and I'm sorry, Louise is barking, but I had to unmute so I could talk. I mean, I agree that what is the harm of saying that we're going to apply for this? Even if we end up not doing it, at least we're in the queue. Does that
Yeah,
make
I
sense?
mean, I think it just, it gets us invited to a webinar that, someone from the town and library attend and learn about next steps. It doesn't, I think it just, gets us invited to that.
Right. So I mean, I don't see the harm in going ahead and doing that first step. as opposed to just saying, well, it's not gonna work. So that's just my 2 cents.
Can I,
Hey, yeah, sorry, Ruby, go ahead.
yeah, does anybody have an estimate on the cost of redoing the roof?
No, I mean, that's something that we're gonna get together with DPW and yeah, and get an estimate and then apply for CPA grant.
Is there any help that I could provide for, you said there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Can we get together and formulate, how can I help?
Thank you. Talia has put together a kind of very accessible chart that that has all of the kind of major issues and what steps need to be taken. And I think really what needs to happen next is that we'll get together with Chris Rembold and Joe Aberdale from DPW with this list in hand and start plotting out when and how.
I'd like to be at those meetings just because I've talked to so many people over the last 7 years with this stuff. I have information that have accessible that will save a lot of time. Case in point, Chris's idea of what's possible there and what triggers more money than we have. So yeah, I mean, it's only actually there should probably be more than one trustee involved. I mean, we've been elected by the town. We represent the citizens. So I think I'm happy to ask Mark for that, if we can expand it to and have trustee involvement on this. Because otherwise, why are we here?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Of course, we tried this with the last town manager and didn't get anywhere, but anyway.
Well, the problem is in part that Samara reports to Mark. And the trustees' entire purpose, honestly, is a bit confusing. And I'm not sure we have a lot of standing, which I think is possibly a sad situation. I'm not sure about that, but I mean, I'm leaving the board, so maybe I'm being franker than some people are, but
Yeah, we're the
I
ones
think
that-
Samara and Mark should be, and the library professional staff are the people who should be making this decision.
I'll tell you, if you look at other towns and you can go to their minutes, you'll find the trustees, and if they have a foundation board, they are heavily involved in this stuff because the library staff they're trying to run libraries. And
I understand all that, but it's not the situation here.
How are we different?
I'm sorry, it's not the place to, I brought it up, I realize, but let's not get too off track.
Okay, so we're back to the same, it's already 6:03 now. So I think we need a motion on this in a second to move this forward. Is there a motion?
Okay. But
I'm sorry, my stuff broke up. Lauren, did you make a motion?
I was planning on it, but Louise won't stop barking. Hold on a second. I'm gonna move. See what happens. Hold on. Ooh. There's a lot of activity outside the house and she's very excited by it. Okay, so let's see. I will make the motion that I'm not exactly sure how to put this.
Well, it's a recommendation for the town to sign the letter of intent for the state grant.
Okay, so do I need to say that again, or Chris, have you got this?
I can read it back to you.
Okay,
All right, so have a motion to sign the letter of intent for state grant due April 28th. Is there an official title of this grant that I can include in the minutes?
It's a state construction grant,
State
library,
construction.
library state construction grant.
Library state construction grant. All right. So the motion is to sign the letter of intent for library state construction grant due April 28th
For Ramsdale Library.
for Ramsdale Library.
okay. Second,
Is
anybody?
there a second?
And I have a second by Ruby.
Thank you, Ruby. Chris, why don't you run a vote here?
All right. Patrick,
Yes.
Carol,
I'm going to abstain because having listened to the dialogue between Patrick and Samara, I'm feeling rather conflicted and confused, and I'm just not feeling comfortable making a vote one way or the other.
that's fine. Lauren,
Yes,
Ruby,
Ruby's muted.
Oh. Yes.
yes. Margaret,
No,
and Chris, no. We have 3 yeses, 2 nays, 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, this is a larger discussion, which you can continue next time too, because we have to all kind of be on the same page. And there's other information I can give you. Most of you have those reports, the Bolin reports anyway, which are great, and it really outlines what at the time they said would be the future of Ramsdale to make it thrive, and how to fund it and everything else. So the recipe is there already. All right, thank you. The next thing on there is Sunday openings. This is confusing. This is for Ramsdale. Years ago, there was no Sunday openings, and then there was a pilot program to try Sundays, and that worked. And so the issue is now is to how do I frame this? It's about inclusion. People that are working 6 days a week, if not 7. Some of them never get a chance to go to the library. And the thing is, that Sunday is maybe the only chance they can take their kids or their grandkids in there, if they're in that position. So Mondays are always holidays when they're for the most part. And the Sundays before is when Ramsdale, it's possible for it to be open. Also, Ramsdale's open on normal Mondays. So if you take out the Mondays, which are automatically holidays, but then take out the day before it, then it's a chunk of Ramsdale's time, quality time for the public. But so here's what I'm suggesting here. First of all, this is part of the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. So this is something that this would be what I'm suggesting is a recommendation to Mark at this point. These are not, they may not get acted on, but at least it's a recommendation that we try to open not every Sunday, not the ones before major holidays, for example, but usually the ones from October through, say, May, like the school year pretty much. So it would be like, for example, the Sunday before Veterans Day, Sunday before MLK Day, Sunday before President's Day, Sunday before Patriots Day, those kind of things. The in the contract as it stands now, but this was part of the agreement from about 6 years ago, the staff cannot be required to work on Sundays. Okay, so nobody can be just assigned to it. It's where the work lies is with part-time people. And so it's pretty much voluntary. They don't have to do it. So then the other question is, well, if we open those 2, then who pays for that? And I'll try to send you later, but for Shrewsbury, Mass, they have a great program that they're open on those Sundays that I just mentioned. And what happens is it's paid for by the public. So you walk in that week and it'll say, through the generous donation by the Rotary Club, for example, of Great Barrington, the library is open this Sunday. And so, and if you look at Shrewsbury, you'll even see the list of the community people that have paid for these things. So it's paid for completely by donations. So it costs the library nothing, but it's a great benefit to the public, but especially for the people who are working 6 days a week and can't even go to a library. That's an awful thing. We can't open Mason because the staffing would be double of what it would be for Ramsdale. So Ramsdale's ideal for that. So this is just a recommendation to the town manager to explore the possibility of more Sunday openings at Ramsdale. I guess that's the best way to put it. So let's
May I
get a
just
motion on the
add
floor
a
and then we'll
little
discuss it.
information to this? The collective bargaining agreement is being ratified right now. So we are, the new collective bargaining agreement is complete. That process is complete and will last us another 3 years, I believe. So, and I just want to add that we are open Sundays, which is, you know, kind of a rarity in the library world. And there are a handful of Sundays when there is a holiday on a Monday that we are not. So, you know, we're open all weekend. So for those who work during the week, the weekend is available to them. And I also just want to kind of talk about access for librarians too, a little bit. You mentioned access, Pat. You know, librarians need a long weekend every now and again as well. We're part of the working public. So I think that's really what that's in there for, is to recognize that librarians need an occasional long weekend too. But I mean, I really think this issue is part of the collective bargaining agreement, and that's being ratified right now.
Okay, so it's ratified by I guess the librarians that don't have to work in Ramsdale on Sundays. But the thing is, it hasn't been ratified by the town. It's got to go to the select board. It goes to even town meeting on these things. So the thing is, it's not done yet. Yes, that's how this works. You know, the employees ratify it, then it goes to the executive people to ratify it. And it hasn't been ratified yet.
But
So
what are you saying? That you'll seek to change it for Sunday work?
To modify it, but you have to understand, the part-time people may not even be working any of the days in the library. When this program started, there was somebody just up the street that had library skills that came in. They welcomed having the work because that was the only. They're not overworked. They're not working for us for the rest of the time. They could be if they choose to do the work, but nobody had to work. So if they don't have to work, it's not a question of money. It's just a question of, do you want to really, it's again, an inclusion of the people that have Sunday off, but not the rest of the week. And if you add these things up, the cost could be taken care of. The human resources of who could work in there is taken care of. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's just that you have a will to try to make this as inclusive as possible or not, is what it boils down to. Yeah, we're doing this backwards here because we need a motion first before we can discuss. Because if we don't have a motion, then we don't have to discuss. So let's see if there's a motion for this or not. Again, this is a recommendation for the town manager to consider opening on these additional Sundays at Ramsdale.
Patrick,
sorry.
is this an idea that you're proposing, that you put on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I put it on the agenda 3 years. See, this comes up only every 3 years. That's a long time. Because that's the only time you can't really open up the CBA, the contract, once it's officially there, unless both parties could agree to that. Actually, you can have a side letter, but essentially it's not done yet. So it's just, again, this is almost like the Larry Bird thing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Shouldn't we try to help people that their only day off is Sunday? I think so. This is a vote for them. And this doesn't affect the library staff at all.
So have you counted up all the days in the calendar year when Sunday is closed because of the Monday holiday?
Yeah, I mean, we have one in October, one in November. Forget about Christmas and that holiday week, New Year's, that's off. And
February.
President's Day, Patriots Day. What am I missing here? Memorial Day.
Labor Day, maybe?
Well,
No,
Labor Day, we
No,
don't-
that depends, no, that rotates.
Yeah,
Okay.
and most like Shrewsbury, they only do this from October through May. They probably found that's when people, they go outside after that. So essentially,
Patrick,
yes,
I would like, this is Talia. I was just
Hi.
promoted to a panelist for this point. Although I am not the steward now, I have been the steward in the past, and I was the steward during the negotiations for the Sunday hours. And I would just like to correct you that once it passes, we can in fact reopen the negotiations. It will be as the form of an MOU. That is how Sunday hours initially started. They happened in the middle of a collective bargaining agreement.
Mhm.
So there is actually not a rush to do this. I especially would advise not talking to Mark about it until after budget season because he's very overwhelmed right now. However, I would also like to point out that what you're saying about the people who work on Sunday did not vote to ratify this. That's actually not true. We no longer have people who work on Sundays who don't work any other time. That is no longer the case. And they are union members, and they did vote to ratify this contract, the current one, the one
So
that.
hang on a second. So if somebody is just working 4 hours, they're on a list, they get called.
We
and they
don't
can go
have
in.
that anymore.
Well, that's not part of the collective bargaining agreement. That's something else.
But what I'm saying is that isn't part of this. The people who work on Sundays are covered under the collective bargaining agreement at this time. The people who were working only 4 hours a week no longer want to do that. They didn't want to come back after the COVID closures. So we don't have that anymore. We have regular staff.
You know, there's people out there that I know 2 people that would take the work on Sundays that are librarians. So the thing is, before COVID, during COVID, after, everything has changed. If it means that we have to make some phone calls so that part-time people can come in, and those, do they have to really join the union if they're only working like 4 hours a couple times a year or something?
There is no requirement to join the union. I'm simply, because after the court case, there is no requirement to join the union. But I'm simply pointing out that the people, it was written to give priority to people who were already staff who wanted the work. And I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of takers of people who are going to offer to work 4 Sundays a year, which is basically what you're looking at, because the rest of those Sundays we're already open.
Well, let's see here. Not sure what to say, because the thing is, I know we've had people in there working that just are so part-time, they've come in because they're free or whatever. I mean, that's the way that was for a few years. And that was before COVID, but there's no reason why, if it's not impacting the staff at all, why that should make a difference. Right? What would be the difference?
It is impacting the staff who's working there.
Sorry, break it up, Samara.
It is impacting the staff. It's staff who is working there.
No, but if, in other words, if there's, let's just say, for hypothetically, we're going to open on these 5 or 6 Sundays. It doesn't, you know, you can offer it to the staff if somebody wants to make a little extra money, but they don't have to. They're not required to do it. So then we just need a list of extra, in music we call it extra players. The ones that they're on a list, you know, you've got an opening and nobody's said they will go in. You just go down the list and make a couple phone calls. Same exact thing.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to sound negative, but scheduling is really, really complicated. It's not as simple as making a couple phone calls. I just have to say that.
Well, it's as hard as you make it. If there are people that aren't a part of the system, and you develop a list of people, some of them may be stay-at-home moms that will go in and work on
Quite
Sunday.
a lot of them won't work for that, for what we pay anymore. We have gone through this. The list that we had before, we have gone through. We have people who say it's not worth their time. It's not enough money, even at time and a half for 4 hours. So I understand what you're saying, but it really is a lot more complicated than you're making it sound.
Again, I think it's as complicated as you make it. I mean, what can happen is even a place like Shrewsbury, if they have, well, we do this anyway with Ramsdale. We don't have staffing, we just don't open.
For a motion, if anyone wants to make a motion.
Yeah.
I don't have a motion.
The motion.
Anyone
is-
want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, but somebody else will have to. What I was saying is, it's a request again of the town manager to consider opening on additional Sundays at Ramsdale.
What additional Sundays? I'm sorry.
It would be specifically before most of them are like Monday holiday situations. So for the month of October, November, January, February, April, possibly maybe June. I'm sorry, May. Probably not beyond that.
So request of town manager to open on additional Sundays in October, November, January, February, April, and May.
Yeah, I think that's good.
By
Is there a mo-
hiring scabs,
Well,
basically.
no, it's a free country.
Does anyone want to second the motion or not? Is there a second?
Well, is there a first? I'm not making the first. Somebody else.
You said you were making. The
Well,
motion.
I actually gave you the language for it. Is there a first? Okay, I can't see everybody here. Let's see here.
I had to take a break.
There we go. So we're looking for a first on this motion, these additional Sundays.
Okay,
Anybody first?
I'll go ahead and do it. I move that we ask the town manager to
I've got the wording for you, Lauren, if you want. It's the request of town manager to open additional Sundays in October, November, January, February, April, and May.
yes, okay, that's it.
We
I
have a
think you
second?
can actually put the word consider in there because we're just recommending this. We're recommending that he consider this. So Lauren, you're making the motion then?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
looks like there's no second.
Yeah, if there's no second, this dies. So is
No
anybody
second,
else
motion dies. Yep.
want to make a second? Okay, I tell you, I would still consider the people that only.
So
they don't
can we, I don't know if it's off the record, but can we discuss why there's no second and why, I guess, in discussion, everyone would disagree with this?
Say that again, Lauren?
Okay, well, so I have figured that Talia doesn't think this is a good idea, and that's fine, but she's not a voting member anyway. But since no one is seconding this, I'm guessing there are at least 4 of us who wouldn't vote yes on it because no one is seconding it. And I'd be curious to know why, like what's the argument against? Because I think it's important to know.
Well, because the library director and her senior colleagues are against it. Because it's basically hiring scabs, non-union people to come in and do work that the existing staff do not wish to undertake, and I think that's not appropriate. I'll leave it at that.
There were
Margaret, why don't-
people doing that before, though. And was that a problem with the library staff that other people, Pat, you're saying there were some others who were willing to come in that were not library staff, who Talia says now are no longer willing. And I understand, because I don't know what the money was, but I guess it wasn't enough. It wasn't worth it. But were they being considered scabs by the union librarians?
Well, first of all,
That's
they could still be if they were librarians working elsewhere, at one point, we've had people come in from Pittsfield that work at the other library there. Those are union people. That's one thing.
Okay,
And-
no, I mean specifically our,
Yeah,
people who. work
right, and the thing is,
At our library, so,
really not a
I mean-
scab situation, because the way the laws are, there's no requirement for somebody working, really de minimis hours to be in the union.
okay. So. Okay,
Are we ready to move on to the next place on the agenda since that didn't have?
I don't
much
know,
else?
but I'm curious as to why, Chris, Ruby and Carol, like, don't have an
Patrick
opinion.
mentioned that he continues to bring this up. It's very clear that it's problematic for the librarians to try and schedule someone on a holiday weekend. They're not in favor of it. They have to do the staffing. It's problematic for them. And even though I love Sundays and I go there on many Sundays, I wouldn't mind going on a Sunday on a holiday weekend. I'm here to support the library staff and take, listen to them and respect them for what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
Okay, I mean, that's what I just wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm not on either side of it. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand
So
what
this is,
everybody's thinking about.
I mean, selfishly, I'd like to have it open all the Sundays so that if I
Yeah.
want to go, I can go. But
Mhm.
I watch how difficult it is for them to do staffing.
Right, so
It's a real
I
juggling
think that's a really fair,
She was very clear about, once in a while, we'd like to have a long weekend too, so it's pretty clear that they're not, that they're not comfortable with it, and why should we try and subvert that?
okay.
I don't view it that way, but let's move on, because there was no second, so it's not,
Okay.
motion didn't come up. Fine Free was on here. There was some question from Eileen that she thought we needed to revote again, but that doesn't seem to be necessary, so we can move on, which leaves us with Canopy and Tick Keeper. I guess I did a couple things because I didn't know much about any of this stuff. So I called the library commissioners in Boston, and actually I called Canopy to figure out more that goes on. So let me just give you some details that we didn't have from last time. On Canopy, you get so many credits, they call them tokens for plays. So right now we have 10 credits. You could play 10 things in a month and before you get cut off until the next month. Most libraries have 4 credits. And so we're actually paying for more than than the norm. So when I called Canopy, they said, well, the first thing you could do is lower the amount of plays that are available. For example, for 4. One thing that came out of my discussion.
Patrick, are you saying 4 total plays for the entire library, or 4 per
No,
patron?
4 per patron.
4 per patron.
4 per patron, okay? And then one interesting comment from Boston about this was, they said, well, if you're comparing like Tick Keeper and Canopy, they're different patron experiences for one thing. And it said, you're trying to develop patron loyalty. You want people to use your library and think you're helping them watch these movies or whatever. But the thing is, they said it shouldn't be an either or situation here. You should have both. You should have Tick Keeper if you want it. You should find a way to have the Canopy thing too. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Also, I did talk to Ed, who can't be here tonight, but also the recommendation from Boston was that for the most part, traditionally, this is where the friends pick up the tab for these sorts of things, whether it be Canopy or the museum programs. So that was one thing I talked to Ed about, but he couldn't come tonight. And, we kind of both suggested we should talk about it when he can be around next time. So that's one thing. And then this is a matter of, since patrons are in for different experiences, and it's the inclusion factor again. You have people that don't go to libraries. You have people that don't watch movies. But the thing is, a lot of people cut their cable cord, especially this winter. And the only way they can stream a movie is this Canopy. So anytime more than ever, our patrons need these things. So the data from Canopy, and these people are really good. They said for one thing, we started Canopy March of last year. And let's see here. They said it was noted that there's more utilization in Great Barrington. In fact, that 30% of the total occurred in the past 2 months. So obviously it's a wintertime activity. And as far as patrons even signing up for it, that increased by 25% in January and February. So it's something that it's building. One thing that helped, and they mentioned this, is the PR. It was part of our website. It was on the web page previous to March, and that helps push things. The really curious thing was, they told me that, because I asked about this, like what kind of movies are being watched. First of all, it's everything. They've got BBC TV things on it. There's documentaries, there's foreign films, everything you can imagine. But they have an area called Canopy for Kids, which it's like one set price, and parents and kids can access an unlimited number of videos.
Can I call the
That was-
question? We don't have a motion.
We don't need one. I'm trying to tell you what I'm giving you information right now to make an informed
But
decision.
is this because you want to keep Canopy or increase its usage?
Keep part of it because it's making sense. And the advice was not to get rid of it at our level, is to just reduce our level, is for one thing. But one thing that they did say was that, as far as I thought, there'd be a lot of kids, parents would be dialing this stuff in over the winter. It's not the case. There's almost been no usage of it's called Canopy for Kids. And they said what they find is it just probably means that the people don't know it exists. It's a different thing. So that's that. So so that's Canopy right there. That's that part of it. The some more on the museum pass. What does the ticket keeper, what does that cost?
$600 annually includes implementation and training and upkeep.
So $600 a year. Okay. Do you know what our Canopy costs were?
Canopy, the cap that we spend a month is $160. That's only been reached in the past 2 months. Just so you know, we have 87 Canopy users. So that's 87 of our 7,000 plus card holding Great Barrington Library patrons. 87 of them are maxing out our 160. Today, a colleague told me that today a patron came in who couldn't access Canopy because of reaching the it wasn't today, but recently a patron came in who couldn't access Canopy because we reached our $160 limit. But that's 87 patrons who are of 7,000 plus who are Canopy users.
Who are using up the limit.
Who are using up the limit, yes. And some of them are, you get 10 plays, and the most expensive are $4. So, it's presumably one person's watching 10 $40 films, and that's a quarter of the budget.
Yeah. And you made the point that people would not be denied the use of Canopy if we no longer provide it through Great Barrington Libraries, if they go on the system of the
Boston
The
Public.
Boston Public Library, yeah.
And do we
and
have
that's
to-
unlimited, or is that capped?
No,
That's
no,
4 plays,
that's 4 plays.
Four
per patron.
plays per patron per month.
yes.
So that's fairly generous. That's one a week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bottom line for Canopy, I think. The Canopy also said that the vast majority of titles that were being rented in Great Barrington were at the $2 limit, $2 a film. So again, the recommendation which I was given from Boston was the reason to figure out a way to keep some of this under our stuff and use the VBL stuff. That means people would get 8 plays instead of, if they just were with us now, they'd be getting 10. So that's not much different. And it's
Can you
just,
explain that again, please? I didn't follow that.
okay. So if they got 4 credits or 4 movies, let's call it, at a BPL, and they've got 4 for us, that's 8 as opposed to the 10 that they have from us now. So it's a small, slight reduction, but it stays, it's patrons, they're like, we're their library. They're still coming to us. I think the other thing that was mentioned is that, you know, if we get the word out that this is, we're paying for the service or whatever, at some point, probably towards the end of the year, there may be donations that would come in to help support that. We don't have the kind of infrastructure that brings in a lot of money as most libraries do, but that's something to consider. So on the museum pass stuff, how many museums are involved in our program?
Well, you know, it's fluctuated and diminished since COVID. Currently, we have the Clark and Mass MoCA. We will renew Botanical Gardens and Mass Parks. Previously, and I think if we, you know, we had Berkshire Museum and Hancock Shaker Village. I know that the museum passes themselves are something that the Friends have paid for. I know that Holly has been desiring the library to get that we would get Ticket Keeper. So, you know, if we went forward with it, then we would have a discussion with the Friends about which museums we would get. There's looking at other area libraries that offer museum passes. There's also the possibility of Arrowhead, Chesterwood, the Mount, Ventford Hall, the Trustees of the Reservations, many areas, Magic Wings, and the Norman Rockwell Museum, which offers a pass that is a discounted rate.
Okay, so I mean, I went to CW Mars. It looks like the only ones we have listed are the 2, you know, the Williamstown, Clark and Mass MoCA, and it was something else, possibly the reservation one. That's it. There's 3.
Yeah, the Botanical Gardens and the parks are expired and renew in the spring. And, you know, prior to COVID, there were no museum passes.
Yeah.
Prior to COVID, Berkshire Museum and Hancock Shaker Village were also, I've received also emails through the, the general library account asking when we're going to get passes back to those 2 museums.
Yeah. The Berkshire one gives you only a 50% discount. And most of those now are, I didn't know this till looking into it. Most of those that you mentioned are seasonal. They don't start until like the spring, and they go through October. Then the other thing is the Clark has been free for January, February, and March. There's no admission. So then we're looking at the one we would have needed this program, say specifically for, is just Mass MoCA. And so I think the thing is, it's hard to, I mean, you can see the money problem here with that. That doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Well,
Patrick, I still don't have a
get,
motion.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what we're discussing, and I don't have a motion.
Well, yeah, sure. Okay, sure. Okay. Is there a motion? I guess we're looking at, I guess we need to do this separately. Motion on Canopy to, this can be an ongoing discussion, doesn't need to be fixed today, but considering decreasing, decreasing our from 10 credits to 4 for that. So that would be the first thing.
What's the cost difference?
I don't know what I don't know what the cost at 4 credits is. I know that we pay, we have a cap. I mean, so we're doing $160 cap right now. So I think probably it has to do with diminishing the number of plays and the cap at the same time. I'm not entirely sure how that works.
can we vote on it once we know better what we're voting on and how
We can-
much?
Yeah, we
we're
can,
saying-
we can table
Um,
this. We can table it till next month and
If,
get more information.
if this is to come out of the Friends, if I understood you, Pat, then
Yeah,
it's no longer a library budget issue, right?
no, but that's why, and Ed couldn't be here tonight. So you know what? The best thing is to just table this so we can get a few more, get some more information on this and to see how the Friends feel about that.
In reviewing the minutes from last month, it appears this was brought from the library director requesting that we move the funds from Canopy to Tixkeeper. That was the original proposed motion, which we didn't address. We can address that motion now. We do have the information regarding this. I feel comfortable voting on this and would be comfortable making a motion to approve the movement of funds from Canopy to Tixkeeper.
You got well, I disagree completely because we got a bunch of patrons that probably do a whole lot of streaming and they cut.
You're welcome to disagree, but we can also vote on it and allow the board to make the decision, not you, Patrick.
Well, listen,
That's not how this works.
but Margaret just said, which is correct, the friends tend to be, you know, pay a big part of contribute to this, and Ed could not be here tonight.
Well, Ed
So-
did state in the last minutes that we have from last month that the Friends could supplement the available credits for local patrons.
I'm so thankful to the Friends for all that they provide to the library, but I'm pretty hesitant to have a subscription not in the library budget and as a Friends payment. That seems, I think that our subscriptions of what we provide the patrons really needs to come out of the library budget, because it's going to be an annual, an annual line item, and
Yeah,
should be on ours.
That makes sense, Samara, because you don't want to lose that line item in your budget. I understand where you're
Right.
coming from on that.
Right.
I think honestly, we should just table this till Ed can be part of this discussion. And that.
I'd like to make a motion. That the funds for Canopy in the budget line be moved to Tixkeeper.
I second.
That's one motion, 1 second. We can move to vote. Patrick,
No,
Carol,
Yes.
Ruby,
Ruby, you're muted there.
sorry, I can't hear you.
I believe she's saying no, Chris, if you will look at her mouth.
Great.
No.
Lauren?
You know, I'm not sure I completely understand, and we didn't go to discussion, back to discussion after the second.
We
went
called the
straight to voting.
questions, and call the question means we call and we move to a vote.
We didn't call a question.
Yeah, I
No.
did twice.
Question?
I did twice.
Yeah.
You didn't
I
hear
mean,
It
it.
was
this is-
discussed last month, and Samara laid out her reasoning for it last month.
We didn't have,
pretty
any-
clearly.
we didn't have
It
any.
doesn't have to
details yet.
pass, but we should vote on this.
Yeah, let's finish the vote.
All right.
Okay, so I don't understand well enough what it is in this discussion, so I'm going to abstain.
Great. Abstain. Margaret,
Yes.
Chris, yes. Looks like we have 1 no, or 2 no's, 1 abstention, and 3 yeses. Motion passes.
There you go. Tixkeeper, I guess this is a separate motion. $600 right now, as of this month, we have one museum that would be part of that program.
No, the motion was to move the funds from Canopy to Tixkeeper. Motion passes.
Okay, will be that. Let's see, open meeting law, there's still, it's a bear. I haven't finished the voting of the answering the questions on that, but it's taken me much longer than an hour, which they said it would take, which is a drag. But anyway, Chris and Lauren, you also have to get that in soon.
Yeah, I have it. I actually have it open as well.
Yeah, it's nasty. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's late now, it's 6:45. Is there any other issues here that we need to cover? We kind of talked about the budget. We've talked about buildings. Anything else? Yeah, I think the handwriting's on the wall here, so I'll be resigning from the board at the end of this term. This is, I think, futile. I don't see, it seems short-sighted when you're thinking about our community, the people that put us in the office. We owe
Are we in
people-
board speak or are we in citizen speak?
We're
now?
on board speak.
Okay.
We're on board speak. So that's, I mean, that's.
Did you decide this during this meeting or was this already?
No, this meeting, I've worked too long and too hard on this to have this go down like this. So it's just, time is an investment too. And I think I don't know where you're going with this, but I can't take the journey that you're on. It's as simple as that. So it's no hard feelings, but that's what I plan to do. So I think, anybody else, if you have any comments, or should we can adjourn? Okay, it looks like there's no other comments. Can't see everybody here. Okay, yeah, since there's nothing else, we're adjourning at 6:47. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
All right.
Night.